Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. So recently, Elon Musk from Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin through Tesla. Now he's joined the list of many other companies that have done this, including MicroStrategy, and we'll go through some of the other ones as well. But there are many major companies that have started to not only buy and hold Bitcoin, including even cities and towns are starting to dip into their treasury and buy Bitcoin. But Tesla is even going to start accepting Bitcoin for Tesla cars. Now, we're getting closer and closer and closer to that mass adoption reality where you could just spend Bitcoin anywhere, everyone holds it, and it is a worldwide decentralized cryptocurrency that more or less replaces gold in a digital way. When we look at, where are we on the route to adoption? Like how many people actually hold Bitcoin? How many people actually use it? We're still extremely, extremely early, but we have all of this momentum and growth. But how much exactly? I'd like to illustrate this by looking at a previous analysis done by Chainalysis. This is from 2018, so it's a bit dated, but I think this illustrates the point in a very nice visualization here with this. So in 2018, 460 million addresses held Bitcoin. 172 million of that was actually economically relevant, actually, moving Bitcoin around and actually doing stuff. But only 25 million of that were held by private wallets. The other 147 million was identified as, being used for exchanges, gambling, all that stuff. Now, 25 million addresses actually holding Bitcoin is extremely, extremely small. If you think about this in terms of how many people in the world will actually adopt Bitcoin, and then you think about it in terms of that's how much growth we have based on the percent of people who actually hold it. 25 million is so ridiculously small that we have just an insane amount of growth to still be had, right? So let's say 5% of the world owns Bitcoin, or that will eventually be the case in 5 to 10 years. Well, 5% of, 7 billion is roughly like 350 million people. That's still like an insane amount higher than this. So even just a tiny percent of the world owning and holding and using Bitcoin will increase the adoption rate like so many, like 5, 10, 20 times. Essentially, if you just think about it in terms of how many people will actually own Bitcoin in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and you're investing based on that belief, that is where I think the growth and the potential for Bitcoin. There's so few places that actually accept it, but we still have so much adoption already. Just imagine the growth and the potential when everywhere accepts Bitcoin. You can buy a car anywhere with Bitcoin. I think it's important to visualize this because this is a complete paradigm shift in what we do with our technology, or rather our money technology. And again, like we're seeing massive support. We're seeing banks trying to create stable coins. We're seeing all this amazing adoption. And yet still such a small percent of people actually hold this. There's rumors that Apple may come in and buy a bunch of Bitcoin this year. And that may happen, that may not happen. But what all of this is telling me is that owning Bitcoin sooner than later is going to pay off immensely. And that being one of the early adopters is going to pay off, again, immensely. There's so much room to still grow for Bitcoin and the amount of people to actually adopt it and use it, that while this isn't financial advice by any means, I am aggressively investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm kind of pulling out almost entirely from stocks and gold and everything. I'm not taking my money out, but I'm not putting anything more in, and I'm just putting everything into Bitcoin, Ethereum, at least for the next 6 months. I believe that in this halving cycle, we could see the likes of 300,000. Again, not financial advice, but this is how I'm investing based on this belief. So, and I mean, we can look at a lot of different things here. I wanted to, here we go. I wanted to look at the world view of places that, you know, have Bitcoin ATMs, places that accept Bitcoin, cafes that accept Bitcoin, you know, places that you can stay overnight, nightlife, sports, transportation, all that stuff in terms of what actually accepts cryptocurrency as payments. So you can see that this is being very widely adopted in North America, getting pretty good adoption in South America, and has a lot of adoption in Europe. But everywhere else, it's very spread out and very minor. Very little adoption in Africa, very just key points in Asia, and then kind of the bottom of Oceania there. But basically little to nothing in like Russia, and there's still a lot of adoption to be had. There's definitely a lot of adoption in certain places, but we still have so much growth. And I believe that once all this fills in, we're going to see an insane increase. And I know this will all fill in because cryptocurrency is becoming an inevitability. It's not becoming like a potential thing that's going to happen. This is becoming an inevitability. It's going to be more like, don't be the last person to buy cryptocurrency more than it is, will you? Like, do you trust it? Are you going to risk it? Especially with, the M2 money supply going up faster and faster than we've ever seen in history, right? Like, if we look at this, again, I haven't checked this lately, but I'm sure it's not good. So apparently in the last, set this to 1 year. So the US has printed 26.52% of their money in the last year or so. That is insane. And I'm not surprised. And you could see, again, we already knew this was more or less the case. And again, look, in the 5-year view, this is 56.21% of all of the money ever printed in US history in just the last 5 years. So more than half of all of the money that was ever printed in the last 5 years. That's very, very scary. And all these things are adding up to, you should own Bitcoin or some cryptocurrency or something that isn't directly connected to the fiat system, because to me, this looks like an impending crash coming very soon. But we don't see the effects of this yet, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, because the velocity of money is so low right now that the effects of this won't be seen until the economy picks back up again. Now, I want to go through a couple companies that actually bought Bitcoin and hold it. I already mentioned the first two, which is Tesla and MicroStrategy, which is kind of the original, big buyer of Bitcoin, who apparently owns over $3 billion worth. At this point, he was at one point buying $1,000 in Bitcoin every second. Definitely, an amazing story here. Their stock has skyrocketed. They've basically come out of the dirt with Bitcoin, and it saved their company and made them exponentially wealthier. So that's an amazing story of what Bitcoin can do for you. And then obviously Tesla just bought 1.5 billion. And then we have all these other companies, investment firms, all this stuff, Galaxy Digital Holdings, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. These are all different stocks that you can invest in if you want to get crypto, expose yourself to Bitcoin without actually having to buy it directly. which I do recommend that you buy it directly and not holding one of these stocks. But these stocks are going up like very quickly. So it's working really, really well for the people who do invest in these. So it's definitely not a bad idea. But this is just kind of showing you a bunch of the different companies that are investing in Bitcoin with a great deal of money. These are the top 10 companies as of yesterday, apparently, according to this at least. But this gives you a really good idea of the companies that are currently in it. Only, one or two big names that you would maybe, recognize outside of these sectors. But once we start to see the likes of Google, Microsoft, Amazon, all these different companies, putting some of their money into Bitcoin just to have a good store of value and to not have the crazy inflation that we're seeing affect their investments and their holdings and their cash and their liquidity. So again, I think all of this kind of just adds up to say, if all these people are getting into Bitcoin, like, why aren't you? And again, it might come down to, people say it's too complicated to understand. It's too difficult to use. It's a scam, all these different things. I'll quickly run through these and why I don't think this is the case and essentially what I would say to these people. So if someone said it's too complicated to understand, I would say, I don't understand anything about engine combustion in a car, right? I don't know anything about how that works. And I would actually argue that most people do not know how engine combustion works. And yet, most people can still drive a car. In that same way, most people literally know nothing about the internet. They don't know that this really maps to an IP address, all the different aspects of the internet. People have very, very little understanding whatsoever, and yet they use it all day, every day. Something being too complicated to understand is not important if you can still use it. That's the key thing. It's not needing to understand a Bitcoin, it's whether or not you can use it. And then we come to the second question or concern, which is it's too difficult to use. That is fair because it is challenging to use and there is a learning curve, but they're finding so many ways to make it easier and easier and easier. And we have all of these like stock trading companies, PayPal, Visa is going to start offering Bitcoin soon. So that'll probably spike up Bitcoin as well. But there's all these different ways they're making it easier and easier and easier. Now, I don't recommend investing in the easy ways because typically there's a little bit of sketchiness going on, like they don't let you withdraw your funds and stuff like that. It is worth going the extra, effort and the extra complications to just actually own it yourself. I think once you get through that, it makes it way easier. And I'm going to do a full breakdown and tutorial on buying your first Bitcoin very soon so that if you don't want to, go around looking for random tutorials and things and you'd rather just use mine, then I will have something for you guys to refer to going forward. It's a scam. I think the scam thing is kind of like we've gotten past that where it's like, obviously it's not a scam at this point. People understand there is value to it. It's based on the store of value, the energy that's put into making it, the difficulty increasing, all these different things. It's definitely not a scam. And I mean, if you don't trust it, you could say anything is a scam, though. You could say stock market is a scam because there's people who are able to manipulate it on the back end. And we don't even have that happening in crypto. So it really just depends like your level of risk that you're willing to deal with. And I can see why people might say it's a scam because it's such a big paradigm shift for the financial industry. There's too many fees. I would say that yes, the fees are high, but it's not that different. And it's probably still cheaper than what we have with our regular system. So if I was comparing Bitcoin to gold, the fees to buy and sell gold are significantly higher than to buy and sell Bitcoin, and the convenience and all the other things associated. So if I wanted to buy gold, it takes 30 days. I have to pay for shipping and all that, and I get it shipped, and I would have to store it here in my house, and I could get robbed. So if I want to store it securely, I would put it in a vault, and then I have to pay for the vault, and I don't actually have the direct access. I still would have to rely on the bank or whatever to let me get it back. Now, when I sell gold, you have to go and get it checked, and you have to go through like all these different extra measures to actually sell it if you want the actual like legit value, and you're not just going to like cash for gold or something like that and getting a random offer. If you want the actual fair value of your gold, there's a lot of extra steps you have to take, and the amount of money that eventually goes into doing all this extra stuff is actually, I would argue, is more than what you'd spend on a Bitcoin transaction. The point of the Bitcoin transaction being expensive is partially, I would say, like by design, because we want you to hold Bitcoin. We don't want you to be trading it and using it as, like everyday like cash, because Bitcoin isn't meant to be cash. It's meant to be digital gold, and you don't go around spending gold every day. So, some people would argue that is what Bitcoin was for. But I would say Bitcoin Cash and things like Dash have solved that use case. Bitcoin is meant to be gold. So the reason that the transactions fees are high is to incentivize you to continue to hold it. The same way with gold. It's meant to mimic that. So I am incentivized to hold my Bitcoin instead of spending it, because I know that it's expensive to spend and that it will likely continue going up. So I'm incentivized to keep it. Whereas with like fiat, you're incentivized to spend it because you know it's going to go down in value. So naturally, you're incentivized to spend your regular fiat dollars, and you're incentivized to hold your Bitcoin. And that's kind of what the point of it is, at least in my view. There's no need, or they're disinterested. That's actually a very large percentage of people who said that. And I would say that they just do not see the problem. And the problem is fiat money, Canadian dollars, US dollars. It's because it's controlled by a few entities, and they can rapidly inflate the currency at any time, which we know is actually happening right now. We've already looked at the M2 stock. It is happening at the worst rate it's ever been in history. So naturally, there is a problem and there is a solution. And the solution is cryptocurrency, or really just having any assets to hedge against this. The reason that I think crypto is better than, for example, stocks is because it's easier to get your money from stocks to cash. And I think stocks will be the first thing to go in an economic crisis. People will sell Bitcoin and stuff as well, but people are more likely to convert into Bitcoin during a crisis because they see how concerning it is, and there's going to be more people buying good assets rather than holding on to just liquid cash, because they're seeing that it's going down and down. And we've seen what happened with Venezuela in just a year's time. They destroyed their entire economy. So the fact that people might be disinterested or not see a need for it now is just because they're not looking around. The economy is the worst it's like almost ever been, at least in my lifetime. And while we still might not see that yet because the velocity of money is so low, which just simply means people exchanging money, like how many people are actually spending money, how many times is it actually changing hands, because so many things are closed and so many people are saving money and not doing much out in the, going to malls, buying things, consuming. So naturally, they don't see this problem yet. But a lot of people have seen this problem for a long time, that the regular fiat system is coming to an end, and it's going to end very poorly. The only way to deal with this is to have good quality appreciating assets, and Bitcoin is a perfect solution to this. And it's even better than other assets because it's decentralized and you can truly own it and have complete ownership and control of those funds. So for the people who don't see the need or they're disinterested, I would just say that you're not looking around enough. And I mean, it sounds convenient for me to say, well, you're just not looking hard enough. But it's the same with any, kind of crisis where it's like someone says, the environment is coming to an end. We have to stop this. And people will look around and say, well, everything seems fine right now. But it might get worse and there's something that you can do about it. It's the same with cryptocurrency. The economy is going to get worse. We're seeing this. It's all laid out in front of us, but we just have to take action, actually do something. And I think cryptocurrency is the solution. People saying it's a bubble. Absolutely not. While I understand why that's the case or why people might think that, because we've seen this before with like the .com bubble and stuff like that. It's getting the adoption that it needs, and a lot of the cryptocurrencies, at least that I'm focused on, I think will survive the bubble and definitely have a lot of value. Now, I do think there is a bubble for like NFTs, DeFi, stuff like that. But if you're investing in the core quality cryptocurrencies, for me, that's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Again, none of this is financial advice. You won't have any issues with that. But I definitely do think there is a bubble for things like NFTs and the DeFi space. So I would avoid those. It's too high risk. Again, I understand that. But when you consider how risky it is to just hold money now, which when you think about it normally, that doesn't sound like that makes sense. But when you start to actually look and investigate and you see the inflation, yes, it is becoming almost more risky to just hold liquid fiat currency because it's going down so rapidly. We just, again, cannot see that because the velocity of money is so low. So we haven't seen consumer prices rapidly change yet. It's going to be a bigger risk to do nothing. To not invest in Bitcoin is becoming a bigger opportunity risk for your finances than it is to just continue doing things as you are. And you've really got to stop and ask yourself, this is everything for that I have to share, but as my final thoughts here, you really got to stop and ask yourself, am I doing well as everything is now? Like if you're not buying Bitcoin, are you doing well? Are you getting by? Do you have savings? Do you have investments? If your answer is like no, like I'm just getting by or I'm getting by okay, but I don't have any investments, then you've really got to stop and think, okay, well, if I want to actually prepare for the future, the riskiest thing I could do is nothing. So it's less risk, in my opinion, to start investing in something, cryptocurrencies, stocks. I just think crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to play out a lot better because there's so much potential and room for them to grow, and so much people still haven't adopted it yet that once we see all of that, there's going to be so much more growth to be had. So naturally, I think that is the best place to put money for investments. But again, the majority of people have not invested in Bitcoin. So I'm sure there's going to be many people who will say like investing is a rich man's game. Like you have to have extra money to be able to invest. I would say it's kind of the opposite. The only way to get rich is by investing. It's rather a poor man's game because the only way that you're ever going to get wealthy is by investing or investing in some way, whether it's investing in a business that you're building or investing in cryptocurrency or real estate or whatever. That's the only way that you're going to get wealthy. It's very unlikely that you're going to, make it just doing what you're doing without investing anything for the future. It's so unlikely that you're going to set yourself up for success if you're always living paycheck to paycheck. And again, a lot of people will say, yeah, but it's only for like people who have that money and like I don't have that money. You can always find ways to cut back, but more importantly, to then use that money, not just for other things, but to invest that money. And I have many examples myself where it's like, okay, I'll cut my own hair, invest that money into Bitcoin. I'll walk places instead of Ubering, invest that money into Bitcoin. I will, whatever it happens to be, cut down on it, do something to improve your finances, and then invest that money into something that is going to grow. And again, I know it's hard for a lot of people to get started. I was basically broke up until I started investing. But once you actually finally make that step, it changes your mindset when you realize, okay, well, I could buy this thing, or I could just keep holding my cryptocurrency and it'll be worth more tomorrow. Again, you're incentivized to hold, whereas if you just hold regular fiat currency, you're incentivized to spend. If I've got money in my wallet, I'm literally incentivized to go out and spend it right away. If I have crypto in my wallet, my hardware wallet or my software wallet, I am literally incentivized not to spend it, because I know that if I buy a coffee with Bitcoin today, tomorrow that money might be worth more, and then I'm losing that money that I otherwise would have had because I went and bought something that I didn't really need to buy. So I think there's a big perspective shift once you actually start investing. And I myself have seen that and felt that, and it's drastically changed the way I've approached all of my finances. And I've done a complete 180 in the last year and a half or so. And I highly, highly recommend people to very seriously consider getting into this. And there's many ways that you can get started without even having to put money in. I started just by using crypto social media and earning over a long period of time just on crypto social media. I've earned about $17,800 or so originally, which has appreciated to over $33,000 earned in total in the last year and a half, 2 years or so, something like that. And that's been absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend that as an option, because obviously you can make quite a bit of money through crypto social media if you don't want to actually just invest. But whatever you happen to do, I think it's very important that people look into acquiring cryptocurrency and holding it for their investments to just grow and building your wealth over time. Again, for the fourth time, this is not financial advice, but I really want everyone to do well. I want everyone to win. So don't go investing in crazy random cryptocurrencies. If you're going to, I would just say stick to the basics. Don't get involved in the bubbles of NFT and DeFi and all this craziness. Just stick to what works well, and you'll probably have a good time with it. But again, none of it's financial advice. I'm just sharing my thoughts on this. I am going to continue dollar costing into Bitcoin and Ethereum, mainly focusing on Ethereum right now because I do have a decent amount of Bitcoin. But with that being said, that is everything for today. Let me know, do you own Bitcoin? Do you plan on owning it? What's the next big company that you think is going to come out and buy Bitcoin? I'm going to guess Apple. But let me know what your predictions are, what your thoughts are on all this good stuff. Is Bitcoin going to go to 300K this year? Is it going to go to 100K? What are your price predictions? I think we're going to see 300K by November or somewhere around there. I intend to sell most of my crypto this year, but we'll see how everything plays out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe. All that stuff really, really helps. And until next time, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.